She's with her son, Jim, who's 40. He sits opposite her, drinking tea.
I'm thinking of asking Amira to marry me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, wow.
What do you think?
You know how much I like her.
I know. But about me, getting married again.
I think it's wonderful. A wonderful idea. Amira is a much better choice than Wanda was.
She pinches his cheek, and he laughs.
What about you, Ma? You got a boyfriend?
Don't be ridiculous.
What's his name? Eddie.
Oh, we don't really talk anymore.
I thought he was your closest friend here.
So did I. But the other day we're talking and he's starting to, hit on me. Asking my age, seeing if I'd still be interested in having sex.
Ma!
It's a real concern older men have. They start to fail in that area, and they think maybe a younger woman will perk it up. I couldn't believe Eddie would see me like that at my age. Very disappointing, for God's sakes. Get a glove if you want that.
Can we, please change the subject?
Sorry, I got carried away. It's still eating me up, I guess. How's your father?
I don't want to talk about him today.
I'm only asking.
I know.
Are you still angry?
Not this again.
Will you please admit it?
I'm not.
What do you think? You're cursed now? Divorce isn't a genetic disorder, you know.
I know.
You and Amira are nothing like me and your father.
I know.
Yet you're still angry?
Look, I understand. You did what you had to do.
Did I?
That's what you told me. That's all you told me. Do you want more tea?
The reason I left was because one Saturday he was very angry with me over nothing and threw something at me and hit me in my chest. A bathing suit, my little blue one with the black belt and the buckle.
A bathing suit.
Don't make it sound so small. He threw it at my chest after the breast cancer. For him to throw it there, he said, but it's only a bathing suit. I said, it was inches from my face. It could have hit me in my eye. It could have injured me. And Jimmy, you didn't see the look on your father's face when he hurled it at me. He didn't fling it, he hurled it. The look, it was so full of anger and hate.
Jesus.
And the verbal abuse, when I tried to bring it up, he just wanted to talk about it. You think a husband of all people...
Sorry. She trails off. Jim reaches for his teacup, changes his mind, and takes his mother's hand.
I didn't know.
Of course you didn't. I didn't want you to. He's still your father.
How long was he treating you like this?
It doesn't matter. If it's not him, it's someone else. Like Eddie. It's a power thing. A lot of men, they have to feel that they have this power over us, that they're never willing to relinquish. Even at my age, they have to fight that battle still. Jimmy, how old do you know Amira?
What? Well, really well, it's 6 years.
I don't mean where she grew up, her favorite color. I mean her body. Who's loved her? Who's hurt her? Where? Does she hold the pain in her neck, arm, knee?
You're not making a lot of sense.
We're all walking history. Our bodies are history. Other men besides your father have attacked me with worse than bathing suits. These memories are still here, all knotted up in muscle and bone. Or growing out of my skin like tumors. I think I should have told you a long time ago. It shouldn't be a secret. No woman gets through this life unscarred.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm just sorry.
You don't need to be sorry. Just talk to her about this before you propose. And whenever you touch her, be gentle. You don't know how many memories you're touching. Be gentle.
Okay.
He finishes his tea and sets down the cup.
I'm not angry, really, that you left Dad. I think you did what you had to do to survive.
He gets up to clear the plates. Lucy touches her chest.
Oh,
What?
I never thought about it that way. To survive. Not my fault, just to survive.
Jim bends down and kisses her cheek gently. End of scene. So this next piece is a piece that actually I wrote when I overheard a conversation between Wendy and Martin. And it's called The One That Got Away. Michael, a gentleman in his later years, is sitting on his front porch talking to a friend of 30 years.
When I was 19 years old, I started working at a movie theater. I started as an usher, and within a few months I moved up to assistant and then to managing director of the company. About a year later, when I was 20, there was a girl, her name was Mary, and she worked for me part-time as a cashier. She was 19 years old. At the time, I had a 1947 Buick Roadmaster convertible. And she and I would drive up to Haines Point in that car with the top down in the evenings after work. And she would sleep with me, as far as genuine sleeping. In my convertible on Haines Point, even though she had to go to work the next day at her day job, her real job as a civilian employee for the Marine Corps. Before we met, she had been going to the Marine Corps dances every Saturday night. There was a bus that ran from downtown, and when we started dating, she stopped going. Mary and I, we got along famously. When we were together, we had always put each other first. And I think that's a pretty good way to get along. That's the kind of relationship that lasts. But I made a big mistake. Her roommate's younger sister, Patty, came to town for a visit one weekend. And I had gone out with Patty once before. So when I heard she was in town, I called her and asked her to go out on a date. But she said no. Then I called back the same number to ask Mary if she would go out with me that same night, and she said no. You asked Patty first. And we talked and talked, but she kept saying no. She was really mad, but I was a young and inexperienced guy, and Mary was very straightforward, nice girl, good kind of girl. I guess she was too mad or hurt, or I don't know what, but she wouldn't change her mind. Sometime later, I was told by Mary's roommate, Carolyn, that Mary waited for me to call her for 6 months. Back then, it wasn't as normal for a girl to call a guy like it is today. So after 6 months, when I still hadn't called her, she got back on that bus, went back to the Marine Corps dances. She met and then married a Marine sergeant. She found someone else. The last time I saw her was when her friend Carolyn and I went to see her at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, where she had just had her first child. I don't remember what we said. There weren't any real warm words between us. I remember that, but there wasn't any harshness either. But then there was it. It was the last time I saw her, and I think now, if I had called her sometime in those 6 months, we'd probably still be together. She was the kind of girl I could have married. Yep, she was the one that got away.
End of scene. Our next monologue, actually, is called Words from a Father. It was written by Joe. And Freda will be reading.
said, "Life is what you make of it. Go grab it and make it your own." He had 3 daughters and 1 son, yet he never differentiated between gender. Anything my brother could do, he believed my sisters and I could do too, and we listened to him. My father said, "Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't. You will never know until you try." And we listened to him. He believed in us and we in him. But when we went out to face the world, issues surrounding gender differences reared their ugly head. People discriminated against us because of our gender time and time again. But our Father wouldn't let us give in, give up, and we didn't. Sometimes I think about it even now, as a woman in her later years. I think about how amazing it is that when we are raised in this world and then sent out to face it, we are mostly unprepared no matter what our parents said when we were young. The thought of facing the world under our Father's guidance, we felt so fearless, like there was nothing we couldn't do if we tried hard enough. But then we grew up. Suddenly everything was different. To have to face the world on our own was frightening. There was this perception that everyone was against us and waiting for us to fail. We were raised in a culture and society where women are not valued or held to the same standard as men. But our Father taught us to go against those beliefs, to judge a person by their character, integrity, and loyalty, not the culture, beliefs, or gender expectations. So hard as it was, my sisters and I stood strong. The wisdom from our Father, instilled in childhood, gave us the strength to keep fighting. Our dad watched us from afar, standing proud, seeing his daughters face the world with dignity and strength. He saw us overcome the barriers before us and move forward gracefully. As I look back on my life, I feel so grateful and fortunate to have a father who taught me to face my fears, challenge cultural traditions that devalued me, and believe in myself. I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for his guidance and love. I wish for every young girl to have a father like mine. I wish for her to grab life and make it her own, and never let anyone tell her she can't. She can. I am living proof.
End of scene. Love at First Sight. It was written by Sabrina Hyman. Raise your hand. All right, Sabrina, way up in the air. Okay. The characters are Mrs. Hiller, played by Freda, Mr. Hiller, played by Martin, Miles, played by Nick, and Mira, played by Wendy. Mr. and Mrs. Hiller, a middle-aged couple, are sitting at a dinner table waiting.
I hate the country. Why on earth did we decide to move here?
I love the country. It's beautiful, amazing. That's why you'll learn to appreciate it in time.
A car screeches outside the Hillers' home. There's a heavy bass vibration and car lights.
I think the kids are home.
That boy is not my kid. I haven't even met him.
You said we'd give him a chance, Richard. Mira cares for him. The least you could do is to get to know him a little bit. Do it for Mira.
Well, maybe. I don't want to, though.
You are as stubborn as a 2-year-old.
Well, our kid has your taste in men, the bad boys.
Mr. Hiller winks at his wife, who laughs.
Honey, you were the captain of the Geek Club.
Glee Club. Glee. And isn't he a year older than our daughter? Why can't he find a girl his own age? He probably thinks it makes him seem cool, dating a younger girl. I'm not sticking around here for this. Maybe it's not too late to get an extra shift at work.
Mrs. Hiller reaches for the phone, or Mr. Hiller reaches for the phone when there's a ring at the doorbell. On the doorbell.
Coming.
Mrs. Hiller runs to the door with excitement. Mr. Hiller remains seated.
Hello, welcome. Come in.
A young girl dressed in all black walks in with a boy in a nice button-down shirt who walks in next to her.
Hi, Mom. Dad. How's it going?
Mira, can I take your coat?
Thanks, babe.
Mr. Hiller jumps out of his seat, runs straight for his daughter, and stares straight at Miles.
I'll take that.
Actually, Mr. Hiller says that.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'll take that.
Dad.
He takes his daughter's coat. He stares at Miles aggressively. Miles doesn't seem to notice it.
Sit, please.
Thank you so much for having me over for dinner, Mrs. Hiller.
Oh, so
you think you're some sort of gentleman.
Miles, that's very sweet of you. We're happy to have you join us. Richard, chew on your toes.
Mom, you're embarrassing me.
Sorry, honey.
So, Miles, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What are your plans for the future? Have any skills?
Well,
Cat got your tongue? Me, I was a contractor, and at my job we built everything that is up there. Satellites, I also was part of a team that built Dulles Airport in Virginia. What have you done with your life? Huh?
Mr. Hiller's eyes do not leave Miles.
Well,
I'm going to get dinner on the table, Richard. Will you come and help me?
Yeah. Actually, I'm awfully comfortable right here, and Miles and I were about to have a little...
Now, Richard.
Mrs. Hiller gets up from the dinner table and goes to the kitchen to get dinner. Mr. Hiller slowly gets up from his seat. He's mumbling to himself. They exit off stage, and then there's a muffled voice of a woman nagging in the background.
are you sure right now is the right time to tell them?
Yes, I love you. It's time they know what's going on.
Okay, but I don't think your dad is ready to know that his little girl is getting married.
Crash! Both parents are standing in the doorway. Mr. Hiller drops the plate in his hands. He begins to hurriedly clean it up. Mrs. Hiller rushes to her seat.
Oh, my goodness. This is wonderful news. Oh, Mira, I'm so happy for you.
She hugs her daughter.
We have to get the cake and the flowers, and my goodness, there's so much to plan. Let me call your Nana. She will be thrilled. When are you thinking about doing it? Spring? Summer? I'm so excited.
Mrs. Hiller runs into the kitchen. Mr. Hiller dumps everything that fell on the floor into the garbage. He stands straight and tall. Then he walks with confidence and swag over to the young couple.
So you think you have what it takes to marry my daughter, huh? What is this, puppy love or something?
Dad, are you kidding me? I'm 26 years old.
I know a thing about puppy love myself. When I was 8, I walked hand in hand up the street with a 7-year-old girl. I was the older man. Just like you, Miles. I thought it was so scandalous. I thought it was such a thrill. Is that why you are with my daughter, Miles? For the thrill? Because that ain't love, my friend.
Dad, you're giving me a migraine with your irritating stories.
Well, actually, 1 year age difference in your 20s is not that much, and the truth, sir, this is not puppy love to me. It's real. I really love your daughter, sir.
Mrs. Hiller walks back into the room. She's filled with joy.
What's that, baby? Did I hear you say your head is hurting? Why?
Dad, and his stupid stories. Or maybe it's from this dumb farm. It took us forever to drive all the way out here into the middle of nowhere. Why did you guys move to the country anyway?
That's a great question. I wanted to stay in the city.
What are you talking about, Mira? I'm sure the city has its perks, but Country's so beautiful and amazing. I love it out here.
Well, isn't this the dandiest thing? That's what Richard said. Isn't that right, Richard?
Maybe.
I love it out here. My grandparents had a farm. I spent all my summers there as a kid. I love the quiet.
And then he points to Mr. Hiller's shirt.
Is that a PSG jersey? I love PSG. Huge fan.
What? Oh, yeah, the Chelsea game is going on right now.
And with no further dialogue, the two men get up and run for the television.
What just happened?
Boys, at least your dad is coming around.
Yeah, and he didn't scare off Miles with his life stories. Maybe we could even get married out here, on the farm.
Your dad would love that. So, tell me, with Miles, love at first sight?
Yes.
Your dad and I, too.
They both smile and embrace. The sound of the men cheering in the next room as they watch TV. End of scene. Next scene is actually a monologue. It's called Reflecting. It's written by Wendy Dubner and performed by Dee. Rose, an elderly woman who is in a retirement home, quiet but very sentimental. The time is now, current time, around noon, right after lunch on a sunny day. Rose sits in a coping group in her retirement home, and she begins to reflect on her life.
The greatest gift of life is just to be alive. When I was a child, I knew so little. Being naive didn't make me ignorant, it made me feel safe. But I've learned now that sometimes the less you know, the better. When you're a kid,